Oh, we're live. Okay, we are here. It's amazing. It's a good thing we're here. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get everyone situated in that right place in the portal of this podcast, which is so amazing. I love this experience, but I'm also so grateful because people come on live with me. They don't totally know what it's going to be like. And I'm like, we're going to roll with it. We're going to have fun.
Yes.
It's going to be casual. Welcome. I am Dr. Stephanie Thrower. This is my live podcast, and I've done probably like over 10 episodes now. It's been really cool, and people are willing to come on, and we are deep diving essentially into people's entrepreneurial journey. And I think when I started this show, I was always interested in this. My guest today and I have a lot in common in terms of being very interested in people's work identities, in the way that they identify and their development in that space, and also keeping their work identities, whether that's in business or in their W-2s, keeping it healthy, right? And thinking about boundaries that are important. And today we have Mary Eldridge. She is a licensed clinical social worker. Her specialty is in trauma, and she has been doing workplace trauma focus area for the last 5 years, but she's been a therapist for the last over a decade, which it feels like time flies, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Like something about COVID too, being a therapist out there in the world, and that just, and then we're here.
And COVID is like a time warp.
I know. That was its own 7 years, right?
Yes. Seriously.
She has also been developing, so she's been a therapist for a while, but she has been developing her own coaching practice on supporting people to overcome traumatic workplaces and develop skill. I mean, I don't know enough about that. Really, I am so curious to hear about your coaching offers, as well as the reason I asked Mary to come on today was she's been in my coaching cohort of people. She's been in my peers. Like we worked with similar coaches, and I have been connected with her, and it's been so wonderful to watch her growth on Instagram. And we all have tons of questions, I know, but I wanted to get her on so that you could literally be like, well, this is what happened. This is how I did it, right?
Sounds good.
Because it's not, I mean, in some ways, I think a lot of people feel like growth in social media is kind of a magical thing. It's like, it's just lucky and you can just do it. And I think that there's so much more under the hood to learn about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So how has this process been for you to develop your coaching business?
Yeah, it's been a little chaotic. Like juggling, I had a full-time job, I had my private practice, and also my coaching business, right? And I think when I realized the freedom that coaching can give you, right, in terms of time and like being able to like spend more time with my kids, that's my driving force, right? So I think I started pouring more into the coaching than my private practice in particular. And it's like I said, it's been chaotic, it's been quite challenging, and also really like energizing. Just, working, but also trying to just like slow down and not lose track of like my priorities, right?
I know.
And yeah.
It's such a push-pull. And you said you had been doing this for about a year, trying to develop this coaching practice. I think I'm probably like at 3-4 years. And I do think there is it's not a smooth road in this phase. It feels like a lot of energy. It's very exciting, but even when things are calm, you feel this energy to be like, what should I be doing to promote myself? What should I be doing to build something?
Exactly. Yes. And it's like always like doing more and more and more. I have always been like very like learning oriented and growth oriented, right? So I'm always like trying to figure out, like, oh, I should learn about that and learn about that and learn about that. And what is my next coaching program to develop my own skills, kind of thing. And always just on the go with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it, like you said, it does counter the long-term goal of actually slowing down, being able to be more present.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes.
one question I just I have to pin, even if we can't get to it right now. It's like, when you're really pushing your growth on Instagram, how do you manage not being on it all the time too?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you can get sucked in so bad. And it all
Yes.
can feel like
Yes.
research, right?
Yes. Yes. And I think so when I first went viral with Instagram, I was trying to like reply to all the comments on those videos, right? And that became so consuming that I had to give up on responding to comments. And I feel totally guilty about that because that is a way of engaging with the people, and their vulnerability to me is an honor always. But at the same time, I learned that I just couldn't keep up, right? So I sometimes I cannot even read them. And then, I kind of like go back and start reading them and stuff. But yeah, it becomes all consuming for sure.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't checked out Mary's Instagram, what is your Instagram profile name?
Your BIPOC therapist.
Yeah, you're a
Yeah.
BIPOC therapist.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, so tell me a little bit about the methods you've used, and maybe even let's back up to when you were not, you were focused on other social media platforms or other way of growing.
hmm Yeah, I was investing a lot of energy on the Facebook group method kind of thing. And I realized that I was not getting much traction. So one of the challenges that I had is that I was like very open about workplace toxicity and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people were joining the group and then getting like really afraid of getting caught and things like that. So there wasn't like, even though the group was private, people didn't feel like they could join safely. So then I transitioned into like, okay, well, let me like change the name so it's something more kind of like about leadership and stuff like that, while still addressing the same issues. And that didn't grow as fast, which was so interesting. People were really wanting to join the Toxic Job Recovery Accelerator group, and at the same time, were afraid of it.
Yeah.
And then the one that was like, oh, the thriving leader kind of thing, people were not as attracted to. So it became a lot of energy poured into that, and not a ton of traction, not a ton of like reward from it. So I kind of gave up on that. And when I started growing on Instagram, I had to make that really difficult choice. I think I reached kind of like maybe like the 30,000 followers on Instagram. And that's when I was like, okay, well, you know, I have to focus on this because clearly this is what's leading to my growth and to my business being successful, and not this. And I had a few people in the group. I kind of like said my farewells and stuff, and I invite them to follow me on Instagram. But yeah, I gave up on that route.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so wise because I think I've heard you talk about how important it is to understand your niche and who you're trying to serve, and how it's just, you have to be really specific on how you show up for them,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's what I'm hearing in this decision too, is it totally makes
Mhm.
sense for the people that you're wanting to support, a public Facebook group, or, like anything that can be like
Yes.
screenshotted, right? Can
Yes.
can be found, and those stories. So it really makes sense for you to think of, okay, yeah, this is a really attractive place. It has, like, people want support, but it's maybe
hmm
too public. And we can't really control
Yes.
things as well as we would like to. So it just doesn't make sense for who I want to serve, right?
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So I had to part ways with that, even though I had invested months and months of energy into it. But yeah, it's kind of like that part of like being an entrepreneur is finding the right approach and sometimes letting go of the approaches that you were really invested in, but were not working.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. How did you tell me a little bit about your commitment to your niche? Like, how did that, because I think people get really, I mean, it kind of doesn't matter what business they're, especially what coaching business they're trying to open. I think everyone really balks at the process, or it, maybe not everyone, but it's just a journey to
Yeah.
really feel committed. And when I look at your account, there's
Yeah.
no question in my mind of who you're trying to talk to, right?
Yeah. Yes. I try for sure. So I initially, when I went into coaching, I initially wanted to like work on boundaries and supporting women and developing boundaries and all of that. But that was like so broad that a coach encouraged me to think about like my hero's journey. I was like, well, but what should I talk about? And it clicked. I have gone through workplace toxicity myself, right? And that is something that I was doing a lot in my like practice as a therapist, and is what I have been focusing on for the past 5 years, 4 years at the moment. So I realized like I talk about this all day, every day. I can relate because of my own experiences and also my transition out of it. So why don't I go into this and see? Because when I went through it, I felt so alone, so isolated. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it while I was going through it. And I felt like no one else was going through anything nearly similar. And now that I'm talking about it, it's like so many people can relate, right? So I found a lot of power in that. And that's really why I chose that niche and why I have been focusing so much on it, because I can relate. And like, I know how many women are struggling through it and feeling like they're the problem. And I don't want anyone to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's yeah, I feel like when I read your uh like, the B-roll with
Yes.
the quotes over it, it's just interesting how those can look so simple, right? They can seem like very easy, but to me it's really the thought behind the quotes, right? Of, does
Hmm.
it really, it's really striking that chord of what that feels like to be in toxic workplaces. And I feel like I did research in my doctorate around what it's like to provide racially responsive supervision in
Hmm.
in psychology, which you can
That's it.
imagine it's difficult, right? And
Totally.
talking, and one of the major themes that came out, right, was scapegoating, and how supervisors who were trying to promote their supervisees to be more racially responsive were, especially if they were women of color, they were managed out, right?
Yes.
And they
Mhm.
were meant to feel like, right, even in the field when this should not be happening at all, right?
Yes.
It was the space where it was like, no, this is you're being problematic. Like, there's the ways the feedback would come back, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, that is what I am reading from these quotes, like some of the same themes, right? It's just not captured.
Mhm.
It's not really given a lot of air, like you
Yes,
said.
totally. And like when people say like, "Oh, you posted this," and that was like me writing it. It's like, yes, and that was my experience, right? So like people can relate so much also because I was there at some point, right? And what I am expressing is also connected to what I have gone through. So yeah, and like the being managed out, being pushed out, being scapegoated, leadership. You know, you look up to them and trust them, and are vulnerable with them, thinking that something could happen, that they could try to make it better for you, and then failing you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of that. And then, having to rethink your entire career, something that you invested so much in time, energy, commitment, passion, and having to think, like, is this even for me? And I
Absolutely.
was there. So,
So did, if you don't mind me asking, did that happen to you in the mental health space or in a
yeah.
different field? Oh,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, it actually, well, it was really difficult when I worked in nonprofits, and kind of like the drama field. That was really hard. There was a lot of toxicity and replicating power and control dynamics within the organization. So that was really, really hard. But my most toxic workplace was actually in higher ed at a counseling center. So
mm,
that was incredibly hard. I thought about no longer being a therapist and transitioning into something more kind of like macro a practice and policy work and stuff like that, because I already had my master's. What am I gonna do with it now if I don't want to do therapy, if I don't want to like be in the mental health field exactly as a direct care provider? So yeah, I thought about just giving up, and I persisted, and I did change myself a lot in that space. I I would always say, I feel like I have to leave my Latina side outside the door. And it was a place where we tried supposedly to be very inclusive, like, oh, we cared so much about belonging and stuff like that. And they wouldn't even let us have affinity groups, right? So it's like, oh, what are we saying here, kind of thing. Um, um, but yeah, there was an HR investigation and stuff, and nothing happened. And at the same time, that was that moment of realization. Oh, this was truly happening. And at the same time, I was telling myself that it couldn't be because I needed to survive. Right.
yeah.
And other people were telling me, like, no, it's not like that. It cannot be, you have to be able to work together and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what you are helping people in is, yeah, truly comes from it sounds like a long period of a lot of struggle and finding
Yeah.
your way out of it. How did you find your way out into, because it
Yeah.
sounds like you're in a really different space, of course, at this point.
Yes. Yes. What's funny? That I struggled quite a bit to get out of it because I was trying to fight it from within,
Right?
right? When I realized, like, okay, HR is not going to do anything about this, um, um, I decided to do it myself. But I mean, it was me against the system, right? I did have some amazing colleagues that also were on board with change, but it was swimming against the current.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. I was very much in survival mode, like desperately. And I always say this because this is how I felt. I felt desperate to leave, while also desperate to like not get fired, right? So it was like that push and pull, like, what do I do? And also, I don't want to leave. I want to hold on to this because I love what I'm doing. I find so much meaning. I am so passionate about it. And it's killing me. It's destroying me. Right. And it wasn't until I had my first baby that I was like, you know what? I don't want to come back. Right. And a friend who, it's funny because she was there less time than I was, it was a shorter period of time than I was. And I was warning her. I told her, like, hey, this happens, this happens, this happens. She was like, I want to try it for myself. She lasted less than a year. And I was there for 5, right? Not that that's any better, because I also believe that you don't have to endure conditions like this Um, um, but I did it. I tried it, and she is the one that recruited me into a much better workplace, and that was like my way out. I was like, okay, I'm not coming back. And I went into that other workplace, and I also always say this: I wanted to get out of that place. It was such a healthy workplace. People were so amazing, so welcoming, and I was not ready for that. I was struggling so much. I was only used to the toxicity, the survival mode. I felt like work life balance was boring, and I didn't think about it, right? That was not a thought that I had. But the discomfort with not having to just like be always on the go and doing, that felt very dysregulating. So I was applying for jobs desperately in those first few months. And then I was like, you know what? Let me slow down. Let me press pause and sit with it for a little bit. And that was the best decision I made because it made me realize, like, why do I have to continue to do that? I was actually talking to my former like supervisor, who was a new supervisor, not the supervisor that was really difficult. And this one was my friend. We became really close, and I kept telling her like, "Can I come back? Would I have my office with a window?" She was like, "Yes, you can come back and stuff." I never did, but yes, that was something that I was trying to explore really early on.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, you're speaking to, because in my private practice, I'm at the intersection of maternal mental health and vocation. And so I love the space of what happens in reproduction with sometimes career change, and is just, and the energy behind it is wild sometimes. Like kind of superhuman changes that people make. Even just the experience of having maternity leaves, which is, I'm not saying it's not work, but
Mhm.
but to take the time from a space is like, we don't have that. We really never
No.
have that opportunity. It's such a powerful,
Yes.
yeah, such a powerful space to just have distance and reflect. And, and
Mhm.
it can be so uncomfortable for a lot of my type A overachieving people. It's like,
Yes.
oh, I don't even know what to do to slow down.
Yes, yes. And it's not like you can slow down a ton with a baby at home, right? It's like a brand new
No.
baby, a newborn. It's like, oh my God, no, you're not slowing down. But it's a different kind of like go, go, go and energy, right? And I absolutely believe that and this is not for everybody. So I'm not saying like, oh, have all the babies, right? I want to respect that some people don't want to have babies, but when
No.
you do have a baby, right, that makes you rethink every single inch of your identity. And it makes you really question the things that were not working that perhaps you got used to, and think about options for solving the problems that you're navigating. And yeah, it's a complete identity change.
Totally. Yeah, I could talk to you for hours about it. and,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's like a lot of times in therapy too, I'm saying like, I'm sometimes glad I have babies, as like my clients' babies, as motivators for them to care for themselves. Right. Because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I probably wouldn't care for myself as well if I wasn't pregnant or wasn't breastfeeding, or, like these things
Exactly.
where, um, and vocation is such a huge part of that, right? Like what we want to do for work. I think that there is this idea of what kind of model do I want to be? I'm always talking about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's tricky of being like, I mean, now we're jumping into this entrepreneur space, right? Which is like, I don't know, are your kids seeing you on editing your reels? Being like,
Yes,
where's
definitely.
mommy? Yeah.
So like sometimes I'm scrolling and my kids are sitting next to me. Oh, like my baby she's going to be 2 soon, but she'll be like, "Mama, mama." It's like, "Mama, mama, 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 mama."
I
with
know.
all the videos that I have to record and stuff. Um, um, and then my oldest, she's 5. She'll be like, "Mom, are you gonna go downstairs and work?" It's like, "Yes, baby, I gotta go work." So yes.
I know. Yeah. It's really strange. So, okay, so the last piece I want to ask about this journey
Yes.
for you, because I want it, we're gonna dive into some reels and what trial reels has done for you. I think
Yeah.
specifically I want to kind of unpack that. But so did you imagine yourself ever to become an entrepreneur?
I always dreamt about it, right? But I think I gave up on the dream. Mm, maybe when I moved here to the US. And I realized, like, okay, well, you just have a job kind of thing, right? But funny thing is that sometimes I can be kind of woo woo, right? And for my first baby, we were trying and stuff, and it wasn't happening. And I went on Etsy and I got a reading. And this lady said, "You would do so much better as an entrepreneur." And that kind of like planted my seed again, right? Like, oh, what would that look like? And of course, with babies and surviving babies and all of that, I forgot about it until my third one. And I was like, how am I going to juggle having a job and 3 kids when really, as a social worker, you never make enough and your entire paycheck goes to daycare kind of thing? So I was like, I got to figure something out. And that has got to be, having a business. So, yeah.
Right, which is so funny too for many of us. Even when we have private practices, and so many of us are like, "Oh no, I'm not an entrepreneur," until this like next level, right? But
Yes.
yes, the I mean, we are. I do find some of the business models we're trying to build are
Yes.
just a different level, right? Like the therapy
Mhm.
business model, no wonder, the all the capture rental, whatever the what is it, where all the money hungry businesses and corporations are trying to take over mental health, right? Because
Exactly.
the business model is so simple and easy, and all you have to do is
Yes.
underpay people, right? Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So, but yeah, this whole new space of having to market yourself pretty hard, right?
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so the story where we were at in our we did a little tangent. We're back into Instagram. So you
Yeah.
started to focus on Instagram. Where did growth really start to happen? And I think I was kind of there a little bit watching. You were talking about trial reels and the lazy reels method, and tell me about that.
Yes. So I joined this coaching program, and like they were teaching me to kind of like go into what is most popular, right? What's gone viral, what has the most engagement and stuff like that, and kind of like look at the hook and things, and use that for your hook, kind of like adjust it. Of course, you don't want to steal it. Um, uh, so that was helpful, but it didn't really hit until I bought Jet's lazy trial reels method, and I consumed it in maybe like a day or so. And then I started like putting it into practice. And honestly, so I have been on Instagram probably since like July, somewhat consistently, July last year.
Yeah.
2025, somewhat consistently. I even hired someone that would do my social media and stuff, and it wasn't happening. It wasn't growing. It wasn't growing. I think I had this person work on my social media for maybe like 2 or 3 months and kind of gave up, maybe a little longer, kind of gave up, right? So it wasn't until March probably that my first reel actually went viral. And I started like getting a lot of traction. One went viral just because it was funny. And maybe that was before, but that one didn't bring me followers. It got me a lot of views and a lot of likes and a lot of shares because it was relatable. but it didn't bring me followers because I was still not hitting the nail on the head. And it wasn't until like doing B-roll, which I think is like very specific to my niche, right? I don't think necessarily B-roll is the thing for everybody, but for my niche, people that are probably sitting at their cubicle, struggling, sitting in their office and not being able to listen to anything, but just watch something. I also don't think they necessarily have the time to just watch a minute long me talking at them, right? And just reading the captions. So the B-roll and the entire text with like the entire idea on it really, really like resonates with my folks, right? So it wasn't until like I took Jet's course and I started doing like the B-roll pieces that actually I started growing back in March.
Yeah. So that's how long ago is March?
Yeah, maybe like
6 months, right? Yeah,
yeah,
6 months.
yeah.
So and then how many followers did you have in March?
I probably started with like 2000.
Yes, I think that's what I remember. And
I
now you
think
are at,
almost 65,000.
right. So like
I
when I
know.
posted this, it was 60, right? And that's like whatever, a week later, it's 65. We're
Yeah.
just skyrocketing. And I think that, okay, yeah, I mean, I think that, how did you know? I think that where we struggle with is, you said like hitting the nail, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes we don't. I think it takes us some time to understand what is effective content, right? And
Hmm.
how did you know when you were really like, oh yeah, this is my voice and this is my point, right? Like,
Hmm.
I think that
Hmm.
can feel really abstract when people are starting to create content, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's also coming from you literally, sitting alongside them in their cubicles, being like, what would click for them right now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. For
listening to
sure.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think, sometimes I still struggle to identify what would really like land with my folks. Um, uh, but I do know that there are some pretty key pieces. So, talking about grieving a job that you loved, talking about the institutional betrayal, and kind of like that moral injury are the things that really, really land with my people. So, people that have like this internal turmoil between having to still show up, do your job, and it's not longer what you thought it would be, what you worked for, or also what you think you can endure until the rest of your life, until you retire, kind of thing. So, like that internal conflict, this is killing me. This is like destroying me and changing me. And at the same time, I gotta continue doing it because who else is gonna pay the bills, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and as wonderful as it is to have a big following, the point is for you to build a business, for
Mhm,
you to
mhm,
be able
mhm.
to, right, like be present, be with your
Yes,
kids.
yes,
So how are you
yes.
finding that conversion of content to client? What is that like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually welcome the vast majority of my followers. I like have conversations with my followers and then I start learning from them. So even though I may be not engaging via comments, I'm still engaging with them behind the scenes and really learning about them, learning about what they're struggling with, and just really seeing the human side of you know what we're talking about, which is workplace toxicity and trauma, right? So really like seeing them as the person that's struggling, and that is what's leading to the conversions.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This piece of I mean, especially for the kind of work that you're doing, right? The kind of offer you have, which the transformation, I assume, in your program is so well. What is the transformation about for you?
Yeah. So I focus on three core pillars that are the nervous system regulation, the boundaries, and also the rebuilding the self confidence, right? Because, and this is what I say to my folks, these places make us go and overdrive and kind of like that hamster wheel of overperformance. Doing, trying to prove our worth, trying to demonstrate that we belong in that place, etc. Right? While at the same time, not getting anywhere and feeling stuck, trapped, right? No one sees what we're doing, no one cares about what we're doing. And that's taking a toll on us
Yeah.
for nothing. But we also don't know how to get out of it, right? So my clients are at different stages of the spectrum. Some of them are unemployed and trying to heal so that they can go back into the workforce in a healthy way. And I always say, like when you're starting a job, if you go through this, that's probably the best time to do it because you can set your boundaries early on as opposed to like having to
Oh
adjust
yeah.
your boundaries
Oh yeah.
later on, right? So I always say that to my clients, but my clients are, like I said, unemployed and trying to figure it out. Some of them are in their toxic workplaces and trying to make it work. Some of them are in their toxic workplaces and trying to get out, but can't get out yet. And some other ones have left and are in healthy workplaces and still healing from the harm that they experienced. So the transformation overall is them feeling more confident, being able to speak up, and also being able to regulate themselves. I think one of the biggest pieces that my clients talk about is finally knowing and feeling like they didn't cause this, that they are not the problem, right? And creating that separation. And that is the foundation as well of the work that we do. Creating separation, and that's also boundaries, right? The separation between the narrative that they built about me and who I
Mhm.
really am and
Yeah.
what really happened in my truth, right? So that is really critical for the work that we do.
Yeah. And and it's such a process. I mean, I think that's so important what you talk about grief, right? Is there's such a grief process within this, right? And you're right, like people are going to be at different stages of this, staying and not ready to leave,
Mm-hmm.
like on leave themselves or in between work and like
Yeah.
struggling to feel confident while they're applying for other
Yeah.
places or to
Yeah.
have hope, right?
Yep.
And taking off that scapegoat label, which can be very hard and heavy to do because it,
Yes.
especially if they've had any experiences in their family that mirror that, right? Like it's
Yeah. Or
it's
relationships.
yes, our
Yes.
relationships, right? Um, yeah. So, and I think I even the more I'm hearing about your program, I see that within your content, the connection and the clarity of like, oh yeah, like these are all the points that are connected.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing trial reels, just to talk technical for a few minutes, when you're doing trial reels, how many trial reels are you doing per week?
Mm,
Or maybe how you started?
oh, how I started. I probably started with maybe like, I don't know, 20 a week.
20 a
I
week?
don't know. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. Um, um, there were periods when I saw so many like such good results that I was like, okay, well, let me do more. Right. So I finally started kind of like reaching my max every day. Um, uh, and now then I went into a period where I was like maybe posting like 5 a week. And now I'm posting a little more. So I'm posting now probably like 40 a week
Yeah,
again. So yeah,
it's
but it's
varying.
gone. Yeah, like it's gone a pretty crazy journey.
It's so
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, because now you've added the yaps into, and you're doing like many part series, which is so cool. How has that like transition been into doing some of the yaps from
Yeah. So weird. Because definitely. Um, uh, so first of all, being an immigrant, English is not my first language, right? And so speaking to the camera feels really hard sometimes, right? Also transitioning out of my therapist role kind of thing, where it's like I think that we have such a tendency to try to speak to the masses and include everybody. Like, I don't want to say that this is how it is because I know that it's not for everybody, right? But what resonates for people is when you say, this is how it is, kind of thing, right? And that has been so hard for me because I don't want anyone to feel like, but that was not my experience. What are you talking about? Kind of thing. I want to be always inclusive, right? But that's not what lands. So then I have to post something, about the other side of the experience to still feel like I'm being inclusive. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting to do that and that transition into the yaps. Um, um, Also it requires so much more energy than probably b-roll because with b-roll you kind of like duplicate, right? And then you change the hook and the music and stuff. With this it's like you have to come up with a new idea every time, and it's like, oh my gosh. Also, as a therapist, I don't like talking about myself, right? I don't like talking about my own experience either.
yeah,
So it's been hard, and talking about people hurting you feels also really vulnerable in the sense of like, oh, but will they watch it? Will they see this
totally.
kind of thing? And it's like, well, but it is my truth, right? What are they going to say?
I
Kind
know.
of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been yeah, it's so interesting. I think the thing I think I've been thinking a lot about in the way that the yap challenge, especially Jesse Jean, focuses on talking about expertise, right? And I think her intention or her style is to kind of to be the friend and not the expert, even though she
Yes.
has a lot of expertise, right? And
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
and so, and I think for us, it's really interesting because we can be experts in some spaces, right? Like, yes, we have these degrees, we have helped people heal and grow and change in all these ways. Um, and are we also trying to figure out a coaching business? Yes, right? Like these things that, like,
Yes.
there's plenty, or like, let's talk about motherhood. There's a million things I don't have figured out, right? Like, or will never have figured out. And so, yeah, I think it's weird to navigate that space and sometimes be like, oh yeah, I really do, the research does say this stuff, right?
Mhm.
Versus
Yes.
versus yeah, I'm still experimenting, I'm still, and these are like my vulnerable experiences that I'm working through. Yeah, it's really interesting to navigate, and I think our field is really tough to figure that out sometimes, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think like what I have learned is that where I can show up as the expert is inside my program,
Yeah.
right? And kind of like create some separation, like between also, and those boundaries again, right? Between the narrative that other people have about me on Instagram and who I really am, kind of thing. So on my Instagram, I'm trying to just like be more relatable, kind of thing. And behind the scenes, yes, let's break this down, let's figure it out, and I got you, kind of thing.
I
So
love that frame. Yeah, I think that's perfect. This is, again, I could talk to you forever about a lot of things, but I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. And yeah, and just for sharing your story. I think it's going to be really inspiring to people and help them kind of understand also that like things again can appear so um I don't know. Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, of course she grew, right? But it's like, no, there's so much story to this and how this content really was generated from real life experiences and the process of building this business, right? Yeah.
Yes,
And staying
exactly.
deeply connected to the people who are engaging with you, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. And I always
amazing.
say the trust that they give me and them sharing with me is an honor to me, right? So I always try to like prioritize that. So
Yeah. This was such a gift. Thank you for coming.
thank you
And
for having me.
I just can't wait to see how your program continues to grow and your content continues to grow. And
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.